We might not have any liturgists, do we? Except for June. She's good to go. We'll pass mics out. That's fine. Oh, I did. Bring stuff.
pushing me around, gonna stand my ground, and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I stand my ground, and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I stand my ground, and I won't back down. No, I won't back down.
It got so silent. There ain't no easy way out. You can stand us up to the gates of hell. We won't back down. Tonight, from the fear of death. Welcome to Collective. We are so glad that you're here. I'm Ben. I'll be your host for the service tonight here in downtown DeLand, Florida. Welcome to our living room from anywhere in the world at wearecollectivechurch.com. You can subscribe to stay connected. Some of us have done this 100 times. Some of us have done this 500 times. And some of you, not only is this your first time with us, maybe this is your first time in anything like a church in a long time. Thank you. Thanks for trusting us. Your perspectives are important. They make us fresh. They keep us alive. I'm excited to be together tonight. So after the service, we're going to do a party at my house called Fireside Moonrise, because the moon is rising, or I guess it's already risen, right? It was last night. So the moon is setting, but it's still pretty full, and that's good. I'm excited for you guys to come over to that. This is from the poet Rumi. When I die, you'll only see me descending into a grave. Now watch me rise. How can there be an end when the sun sets and the moon rises? So we're going to do Fireside Moonrise. We're going to talk tonight about death. And you guys know me well enough to know that I dig this vulnerability. I'm excited to open my house to you. I'm excited to talk about death with you. And I'm grateful that it's you. So thanks for being here. We want to begin, as we have recently, by bearing witness to the courage it takes to gather. We want to honor that courage with belonging. So whether it's your first time or you've been here a long time, you belong. those around you add value, and while we're together during this time, everybody's equal. Your presence makes us who we are. Welcome. We're not here to be religiously entertained, but to do the good work of spiritual formation, making a good life as good people. Here to help us do the work tonight, we've got Kenny. Apparently Michelle is also on her way. Fantastic. We may call on some of you guys to do some readings, so stand by. Our artist in residence, man, that word residence. Our artist in residence, Fred Wilson. Brandon on the bass. Thanks for being here, Brandon. How about a hand for Brandon? He also works the booth, yeah. His beautiful wife, Mary, is back in the booth now, just shuffling losas. Oh, come on, stop. I couldn't possibly. Go on. We all are Collective Church, so somebody want to remind us what that means? You want to read the community statement, Brandon? Oh my gosh, there's a mic there. How convenient.
It's like I run the booth.
It is like that. It's similar.
We value highly the metaphor of journey. We're different people from different places and backgrounds, representing an intergenerational community, and we've traveled different paths. So we agreed not to make assumptions about the person across from us, next to us, or in conversation with us. We challenge ourselves to be sensitive, knowing this community includes a diverse group of people from lifelong followers of Jesus to people who are just now open to the idea that God might exist. We strive to avoid offense, ask good questions, articulate and explain our responses. We don't assume fluency in Bible, spirituality, or church language because we believe the message of Jesus is not for Christianity, but for humanity. So we do everything in the spirit of love and grace.
It is church, but you're safe. I promise there's people trying to decide if they're coming in or not. They're like, is it church? I'm not sure that we should.
Travel different paths, beautiful people with messy pasts. So have no fear, no judgment here. Whether you believe in Jesus or don't believe in anything, something you can teach us. You belong, no right, no wrong. Lean into grace. Help us make a place with an open table. No one's turned away. We'll love without why. No one has to hide. Finding God in people, sharing hearts as equals. Where you are held in light. Good news is on your side. Life is full of mystery. Solidarity helps us to find some peace in the great unknown. You don't have to be alone. Leaning into grace. Help us make a place with an open table. No one's turned away. We'll love without why. No one has to hide. Finding God in people,
How about a hand for June?
Woo!
Thanks, baby. Bye. That was all right, but she's got better stuff to do now. All right, so we are Collective Church. We in the room, and anybody online, Kenny, shout-outs?
Yeah, so Jay is watching online, and he's excited. Apparently he's coming to Fireside Moonrise later, so.
No way.
Yeah.
Jay at my house in the flesh. All right, yep. I want to let you know, Jay, Dan started the applause. It looked like I got a second from Mayhill, and it spread like wildfire from there. So just so you know where that started.
And
cool.
Dottie.
Dottie.
Actually, Dottie was especially happy. She says, I do love the bottom of the band being there. Thanks, Mr. Bassman.
Mr. Bassman. Yeah, that's Dr. Bassman. That's Dr. Bassman. Dottie, you're not going to believe this, but I was setting up the like tables under the carport in the driveway, getting ready for the party tonight, and I was thinking about the people that are not here anymore, and I swear I thought of Dottie, and I was like, man, I wish Dottie could be here. I wish Dottie could see where I am, where things are from a while ago. Love you, Dottie. So that's who's online. Who's in the room? More importantly, who's on the path? It's hard to build a movement if you don't know who's in it, so we're going to actually talk to each other. I know that's culturally taboo. But if you're willing to share with somebody next to you, quick answers. I'm going to put 3 minutes on the clock. Kenny's online for the folks online. Chat with him. Where was the death this week, and where was the unexpected life? If you've got a bunch of interpretive questions, just stop and answer the question. Where was the death this week? And where was the unexpected life? So we're starting with connection, the idea that when we're together, when we're being our true selves, it's okay to set heavy stuff down. Where was the death? And it's okay to lift important things up. Where was their new life, unexpected life this week? We should celebrate it. So quick share, 3 minutes on the clock. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. You can reflect in your head. But if you'd like to chat with people, let's talk for about 3 minutes, get to know somebody. Go. A dull roar.
Well, I mean, I had to go to a literal memorial service for a 20-year-old who died this week. That was a lot, but that was actually in some ways like really life-giving. I think it was, that was Wednesday. It's been a very long week. I mean, yeah, but I think that was good. Seeing other people sort of in the process of going through mourning and sharing their experiences with her was really helpful. It actually, some of the ways they talked about her and like her expressions of her personality and how she connected with people really resonated with me in an uncomfortable way. So it was heavy, but it was good. I think that's generally I feel like maybe the undercurrent of a lot of things this past week. Like even stuff that's like largely good, it feels like, okay, there's a lot going on here, but it's positive.
Awesome.
Overwhelmingly busy, got all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. So
Absolutely. 100%.
I'm kind of mourning the death of my freezer.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna be pretty busy.
Yeah,
We like have to make plans, right?
Yeah.
We'll have to.
but like it's good stuff, you know. So I don't want to exhausting.
Yeah. And then, when is your first client? That's creeping up.
Yeah, and I haven't had time to sit down and like send her the intake form and like do all the nitty-gritty stuff which I need to do. So maybe Wednesday, Friday. So I got a turkey.
I really, when I had more money last week, because I spent a lot of it already. Like I deposited money that I got for cat sitting, and immediately made the exact same amount of money that I deposited. I sent towards my car payment. It's her dog. Not Joy. I don't know her name.
Yeah, you were
She's
calling.
new. I've never seen her before.
All right. Anybody want to shout something out? Quick share, a couple words. Where was the death? Where was the life? Fantastic. Kenny, we've got folks online. What do they think?
Well, it's actually me.
Oh, Kenny, fantastic.
Yeah.
Lay it on us.
So this
Kindness, folks, please.
This past Wednesday, I had to go to a memorial service for
Yes.
a very young person, and that was heavy. So it was sort of death, but it was actually kind of life-giving, in that we were able to sort of remember her and share the experience. A lot of what they said about her resonated with me as a person and like how I engage with people, and I think it was probably really helpful for everyone that was there that was grieving for her to do it together.
Yeah.
So like an unexpected turn of like in the face of loss, we were able to do something together, and that was life-giving.
Yeah, wow. So almost by facing death directly instead of resisting it, it was somehow life-giving instead of like terrifying. That's the sermon. Thank you guys, everybody, for coming.
You were looking to cut some
I'm going to say
minutes.
that like 30 different ways in the next hour, but that's it. That's the whole thing. Awesome. Thanks, Kenny. That's really important. Appreciate that. Anybody else? The death, the life, Dan, lay it on us.
I was at the festival this week, and I was out front. And of course, you know, I was in my element, all new people that I didn't know. And I met quite a few new people, and I met some people that I thought I wouldn't have a connection with. They were anti-vaxxers, and I thought immediately that I wouldn't like them. And it turned out they were good people. I think they're confused about facts, but that doesn't mean they're not good people. They were great people. I really enjoyed my time with them.
Seems like if you were to keep living that way over any length of time, you might become the kind of person that said, you know what, maybe we should love our enemies. Somebody should write that down. Yeah, but it's Jesus, not me. All right, so anybody else? Another quick shout? That was really solid, actually. We're going to end on that one. We've said it, we've sung it, we've connected online and in the room. Kenny, what's up on our practice menu this week? It's got to be something magical and super spiritual, right?
Yes. Actually, the foundation of our practice is a form of magic we call email.
Thank you for the two. I spent all week writing that joke. Apparently it didn't work. Do better next week.
So you can go to our website. That's taken directly from our website. You can subscribe and select the rundown, as well as check your preferences for any of the groups that we offer that include collective cares, collective yoga, faith, volunteers. We have a whole bunch of things that you can do with us. Then your weekly rundown becomes your custom dashboard for practicing together.
So then the magic email will come to you when you need it. You guys see how this works, right? Yeah, what kind of sorcery is this? You tell us when to send it, and then we send it when that happens. Go ahead, Kenny, sorry. Yeah, right, yeah, right. All right, so teams and needs. We've been doing a survey for the last 3 weeks about how it is that you guys can be of service and help to pull off the stuff that we're doing. I think we've got currently somewhere between like 13 and 15 people committed to regularly be of service so that we can all be together and do this, which is really cool. And those of you who also want to get the good feels from being of service and helping make something real and something bigger than you, talk to Kenny. I think the surveys are going to be in the rundown for another week or two, right?
Yes.
Maybe yeah, I think they're done in December. So if you haven't done the survey and you want to, go ahead and do that. A couple people have also said, which this is so collective, like, look, I'm not doing the survey, but call me, or text me and I'll come help whenever. So if that's you, fine, just make sure that I know. But do the survey also, please grow up. Kenny, go ahead.
All right, so we have a bunch of great Christmas programming coming up. The first of these things, well, maybe not the first in order, but the first that we're talking about is a special Christmas edition of Pints and Parables. So we'll be doing this one here at the Drika instead of going to the table. It's also a throwback content from Ben's career like 10 years ago.
A decade ago, yeah, maybe 15.
So we'll be covering some of the parables of the real St. Nicholas. Lots of fun Christmas themes and children that are eaten, cannibalism, crazy stuff that you don't think of when you think Santa Claus.
Yeah, but you will forever afterwards.
Yes. There will be details in the email, and we have the event up on Facebook if you want to RSVP.
Awesome. How many of you guys have been to Candlelight before, our community-wide Candlelight? I think this is going to be our 9th year. Kenny and I fought pretty hard about it. I want it to be the 10th year, but apparently it's not. It's only the 9th, so apparently it doesn't matter what I want. So we're going to be back. The last time we did it, we planned to do it, I think, at Cafe Da Vinci, which was beautiful when we did it there. But last time we got rained out, we ended up in here, and it was like magic. It turned into like a cathedral in here. It was gorgeous. So we're going to go ahead and do it and just open the space to the community and get all of that goodness in here over the holidays, now that we can gather safely again and sing together. So again, details in the rundown, find the event on Facebook. That's a great question. We should put that kind of stuff in here. You know what? I'm not going to tell you. Get the rundown.
I can tell you, but
Okay,
you should
fine.
sign up for the email.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, are you going to try to get collective chairs to go to the candlelight service?
Yes.
Because what we had planned on doing is go downtown and look at all the Christmas windows. So what we'll do is we'll go to the candlelight service, and then we'll go look at the windows.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to join us, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, and there's going to be a big surprise at the end you're going to want to be a part of. Like the last few songs you're going to want to be a part of. It's going to be huge. Computer challenge.
It's December 9th.
I don't know, Bill. I'm computer challenged. I don't have my calendar in front of me, so I couldn't tell you. It's a Thursday.
It's December 9th, yes.
All right, awesome.
It's 6 o'clock.
6.
Yeah.
That sounds good. The Volusia Community Symphony is coming up. We've sold a ton of tickets already. We're over like half sold, right? Yeah. Significantly, yeah. So Santa Hensley is going to be there to, yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, so many things I can't say that I want to. Santa and hot chocolate, not Santa as hot chocolate.
Hey, he's also going to be conducting the orchestra with a candy cane.
Oh, wow. Candy cane conductor.
Don't tell nobody.
Okay, we won't. So get tickets. That's the 3rd and the 4th at 7:30 p.m. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Take us away, Kenny.
So remember, the point is the practice. Showing up, giving, and serving are core ways that we practice together, from everything in the rundown to giving financially. It's your time and your life, so make your plan to practice. Like the email, the planning is the practice. Of course, if you need any help, I'm more than happy to help you right after the service. Now let's slow down and shift from words and brains. Planning to breathe and silence, being, both are essential to our practice. It all belongs. First, I think we have something from Michelle.
Yeah. Michelle and I are kind of connected on the exploration of death thing, so every now and again,
So then we can turn the board off, but it's got to be over here.
user error. There we go. So Michelle sends me these, are they screenshots of Instagrams from a thing she follows on Instagram? And every now and again I'm like, yep, we gotta have that. So why don't you share that, and then I'm gonna lead us into some silence.
Okay. So the Instagram account is actually Black Liturgies. Highly recommend. It is especially soul-soothing after the court decisions the last few days. If you wait to be unafraid, you will die waiting. The terrors of this world do not sleep. Liberation is for those who tremble. Inhale. I will not be silenced by fear. Exhale. My trembling voice is still holy.
Hey guys, be quiet back there. Will you read that again, Michelle?
If you wait to be unafraid, you will die waiting. The terrors of this world do not sleep. Liberation is for those who tremble. Inhale. I will not be silenced by fear. Exhale. My trembling voice is still holy.
Thank you. We're going to sound the singing bowl, and we're going to sit and ask you to join us for a few minutes of just gently returning to your attention, to your true self, to God. Whether that feels like some kind of a deep center, or whether that feels like absolute emptiness, anywhere in between, sink into that. I'm going to invite you to breathe and to listen. I want you to breathe in a certain way, and it comes with an expression. I'll show you in a second. I want you to breathe and listen as if your senses are searching for something, and as if they're open to surprise. So the closer you are, the easier this will be to practice, but I want you to breathe as if you're searching for something. Because you know it's up here, and it's going to travel throughout the room. You can see the smoke. So breathe as if you're searching for something. As if your senses are searching. Your mind's going to wander. Come back to your breath. No judgment. Just notice gently, gently to your breath. You can use the drone footage as best helps you to survey your inner landscape. May the silence help us to contemplate what we want this ceremony to accomplish for us. Humility, spiritual rebirth, strength for what lies ahead. Breathe. It's all right. Just yell it out. Just yell it out. She can get it. Think among yourselves.
My darling girl, sleeping all alone. And I pray the stars shoot her all the way so she can hold till the day that I return. And I aim to lay her down. But right now I am focused on the universal sound. Think about tobacco juice, mason jars of shine. Think about the vices I've let take me over time. I recall when I was a baby, I didn't need nothing around but a little bitty rattler in the universal sound. Close my eyes. It's all so clear. It's all right then. It was all right here. Focus on my breathing in the universal sound. Let it take me over from the toenails to the crown. From the body that I'm in, when they put me in the ground. And I return to the chorus of the universal sound. Close my eyes. It's all so clear. It's all right then. It was all right here. Focused on the mountain, seen his glorious face. And I've sat there on the bar stool and I've looked him in his face. He seemed a little haggard, but that did not slow him down. He was humming to the neon of the universal sound.
Thank you, guys. You know how nice it is to, during the week, be like, I wonder if we can do this. And have them be like, yep, we can do it. How about a hand for Fred and Brandon? Let's focus on our breathing and the universal sound and let it take us over from our toenails to the crown of the body that we're in till they put us in the ground and we return to the chorus of the universal sound. You guys want a sermon also? You greedy? Greedy? Okay, fine. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of all of our hearts grant us not only the light of wisdom to understand these words, but the fire of conviction to put them into practice. There's a story of a merchant who sends a worker into Baghdad to buy supplies, and the worker goes down to Baghdad. It's crowded. He's pushing through the crowd, and he comes upon an ominous black figure in a cloak, and death points at him, and he's terrified. And so he kind of backpedals, and he runs, and he pushes back through the crowd, and he runs back up out of the marketplace in Baghdad to the merchant, and he tells the merchant the whole story. And the merchant says, take my fastest horse, and if you leave right now, if you gallop all the way, and if you don't stop, you can reach Samara by midnight. Perhaps you'll be safe there. And the man starts to thank him, and he says, ride! So he goes. The merchant goes back down into Baghdad, because this has sort of thrown his plans off. So he goes down into the crowd, and he finds Death. And he says, what in the world? You know, I've got my worker down here. I'm trying to get him to do business. Why are you scaring him off? And Death says, you know, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to scare him. I was surprised. He's down here. He's chatting up the pretty ladies. He's hanging out in all the shops. He's getting a bite to eat. And I'm thinking, he better get hurrying. I've got an appointment with him in Samara at midnight. It's a slow burn. Maybe you'll get it later. Sometimes the fear of death leads us to our death even more quickly than death does. Sometimes the fear of death leads us to our death even more quickly than death does. We've been talking this fall about how fear can short-circuit our spirituality and our relationships, and what are some practices to take shelter from that fear. And to practice telling some better stories that change our relationship to fear. Tonight, the fear of death. I spent a year as a hospice chaplain, bedside, coaching the dying and the grieving, and learning about life and death. And one of my mentors, my coach, Don Eisenhower, coined this brilliant phrase, dying to live. So this experience, this way of living that they call dying to live, allowed me to survive the loss of three of my best friends, the McCullough family. And if you're not familiar, there's a name on the wall in the lounge after them. It opened my eyes to my own depression and anxiety and unhappiness and anger. It caused me to look at my appetites and addictions and get into recovery for alcohol. It forced me to face my own autoimmune disease, my relationship with pain, and all the fun that has in store. It was the thread that I began to pull that eventually led to the erosion of my marriage and eventually my divorce. It changed my relationship to parenting in incredibly positive ways. It exploded my certainty about calling and vocation. And in all of this, somehow left me more well. More myself, a better father, I think maybe on paper much worse, but also much more empathetic as a pastor. I'm about as real and vulnerable as I've been. So self-check, this is just for you guys, self-check. If you were given 3 months to live and you had to choose either not much or so much, you have to choose one of those, what would change? So 3 months to live, what would change? If you're a person, you go, not much, like I got the life I want, I've done my work, I'm ready to go, happy. So then you're a not much person, and if you're like, oh my God, I wouldn't get up and go to work tomorrow if I was gonna be dead in 3 months, like that's the last thing in the world I'd do. I would change everything, right? I'd go buy this and travel there. So not much or so much. I'm sure there's shades of gray in between, but I want you to just kind of use this as an inventory. So what would change, not much or so much? And then more importantly, as we get into this, what does that lens of death sort of tell you about your own life now? If the life you're living is one in which you found out you were going to die and you were like, I got to change everything, what does that tell you? And then if you're like, no, I'm good, what does that tell you? So I start with a quick theology of death, because I think we have to say something more credible and compassionate and humane than God killed my 3 friends or God killed our loved ones. But there was a plan. Cool, shit plan. Like that doesn't help, thank you. Or that God needed more angels, that's a great one, right? Because God's a murderous diva building a holy entourage. Do we hear ourselves when we comfort people? I mean, I feel like maybe these are helpful for people for a while, but what about everyone else for whom these don't work anymore, but we still want God, and we still want hope? So here's a theology from the funeral of my 3 friends. This is Renee and Ryan and Bill McCullough. Bill was my best friend and mentor. I texted Bill the Friday before he died, and I apologize for having to reschedule our meeting And in true Bill fashion and a tragic and poetic serendipity, the last text I'll ever get from Bill McCullough was this. As a prophet once says, shit happens. The words of Bill's prophet haunt us. Shit happens. We can't rationalize or reason our way through this. No new bit of information will make this any better or force it into a framework that makes any sense. Grief and loss and suffering occur on a register beyond the intellect. They're a mode that's experienced and felt and lived through, not understood. Asking for a theology of death is like asking to taste hip-hop or listen to barbecue. Shit happens, or to get more theologically specific, death happens. Death happens. It's a part of life. And so as we do with all of life, this is the invitation of spirituality. Spirituality asks us what meaning we will make of this beautiful part of life we know as death. That's what spirituality does. It helps us to make meaning. So what meaning will we make of this part of life that we call death? If you don't know where to start, a good place to start is this sermon, so good. Check, you're here. Another great place to start or to take it further is the upcoming Death Cafe. How many of you guys have heard of a Death Cafe? Probably people who are in here. Okay, awesome. So Michelle, give us maybe 30 seconds on Death Cafe and the movement. And yeah, we'll invite you to go further there.
You keep catching me off guard, and the mic's not ready. Ooh, there's a bow.
Holiday Death Cafe, yeah. It's conflicted.
Put a bow on it, make it holiday.
Yeah.
All right, so Death Cafe is a lot kind of like this, but with a smaller group and less structured. Mm-hmm. So it's a death-positive way to look at life. Death-positive sounds maybe like an oxymoron, but this movement, I guess, started in Europe in cafe culture where people freely, sit at cafes and discuss literature or philosophy or whatever. Well, I think in the 60s in Switzerland, they started a death cafe where you have tea there and cake, and people show up, and it's an invitation to openly discuss death. It is specifically not a hospice group, a grief support group, although we're a room full of mental health counselors, so referrals are free.
And we have a counseling co-op now too, so
yeah.
We can get you connected, but that's not the group for all of that.
So in the past, what's happened is everyone, as they felt comfortable, shared kind of their association with death. What is it doing in their lives right now? And themes kind of start to emerge. So as a model, Death Cafe is not a structured conversation. It's open and it's different every time depending on who's there, what's going on in the world. But it's an open space to be vulnerable about the one thing that we all have in common.
Well said.
As we say here, what do we say? Death positivity for a positive life?
Yeah,
Something like
death
that.
positivity for a positive life, yeah.
Yeah.
And like it sounds, it's death and coffee.
Yeah, no tea. We have coffee. Get real.
Yeah. But I also think if it was called Death Cake, probably lots of people would come also. Michelle, would you read Mark chapter 8 for us? And then we're going to go ahead.
Jesus and his disciples went on to the villages around,
Caesarea Philippi.
That.
Great job.
On the way, he asked them, "Who do people say I am?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. He then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns."
I, maybe that was an ancient Near Eastern rap battle. I don't know. There was a lot of, what's the word? Rebuked, yeah. What do you think this means? This, did we not add that extra one in there? Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. All right, so it goes on. We lost the paragraph. Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. And then this is where that really famous line, what good is it for someone to gain the whole world and forfeit their soul? So what do you think this means? Save your life and lose it, lose your life and find it. Hot takes. Save your life and lose it, lose your life and find it. We'll start with Jerry. Last time we talked about this, Jerry said, and I wrote it down because it was friggin' amazing. Jerry said, it's like when you are an artist and you lose yourself in your art. Save your life and lose it, or lose your life and find it. When you lose your life in your passion, when you lose your life in doing art, when you lose your life into sort of that sense of seamlessness, like I could do this forever. This is what I was made to do. Like you lose yourself into that. Anybody else? What does this mean? Save your life and lose it, lose your life and find it.
When you stop taking that negative voice we hear in our head seriously and treat it as it is, which is a liar, and choose to let it die.
Yeah.
And believe good truth about yourself. Not that we're perfect, but if it's this negative, drastic thing that could fall self.
Yeah. So choose your wisdom, choose your thoughts, choose the story that you're telling about yourself. It is said that life is a sexually transmitted disease with a terminal diagnosis. Dying to live, thank you, Joy. God, it's good to have, so good to be back in the room. Give her a mic. I want a record of this. Dying to live is naming the reality that we're going to die, and that being ready to die is just actually another name for a pretty fantastic life. Dying to live is about being ready to die and then realizing that being ready to die is actually a pretty great life. That's the sermon. The antidote for the fear of death is to die before you die. Lose yourself into life. Be ready to die before you get there. It's doing the work of getting ready to die well every day that you're alive. Death is a part of life. So we see this subtle nuance in the text from the Gospel of Mark. Peter rebukes Jesus. It's like a rebuke battle. I want you to make sure you understand. Peter rebukes Jesus because Jesus says he's going to die. And Peter doesn't want him to die because he's like the leader of their movement. So Jesus says, I'm going to go to Jerusalem. I'm going to confront the leaders. They're going to kill me. And Peter says, no, you can't die. But then Jesus rebukes him back, and he calls him Satan, which seems pretty harsh, but Satan is the tempter, right? And Jesus is naming this temptation. He says, for you're setting your mind not on divine concerns, but on human concerns. So this is the inversion here. Jesus identifies that the divine movement is to embrace the fullness of human life, which includes death. Is this in a slide? Because it's a complex idea. Yes, thank you. It's good. No, it's just, trust me, I had to understand it and I wrote it, so I wanted to let you guys read it. Jesus identifies that the divine movement is to embrace the fullness of human life, which includes death, right? Peter says, no, you can't die. And Jesus goes, no, I have to die. The human impulse we all share is to resist death. That's Peter saying, no, you can't die. He even uses that word, the human concern. I think Jesus knows, sort of the wink, is that we can only become fully human, divinely so, fully alive insofar as we embrace death. And we don't naturally embrace death, do we? We resist. We resist death. I think Jesus is saying that the human base model comes with a built-in defense mechanism that resists death. Hence, we all live with the fear of death. But the wisdom, right, guru Jesus, Yoda, is somehow saying those who want to save their life, meaning those who resist death, and I would say for the sake of our conversation these last few weeks, those who fear death, those who want to save their life, those who resist death, those who live in fear of death will miss out on life. And those who lose their lives, or those who face their own death can actually rob death of fear by facing and shaping and telling better stories about mortality. Everybody all right? So the invitation is to do this thing called die before we die, and that there will somehow be full life on the other side. Just checking how many of you guys are like, bullshit, I don't believe it. Too much religion for too long. How many of you are like, okay, tell me more. I might be interested. Cool. There's some subtle nods. In Jerusalem, Jewish people have come for centuries from all over the world to build synagogues. There's a synagogue with a coffin built into the wall. And when people ask why, they're told that in the Talmud, we're taught that each human being is supposed to repent one day before they die, the day before the last day of their life. Repent one day before they die, the day before the last day of their life. Which begs the question, how do you know? How do you know when the last day of your life is? And then, of course, in this beautiful rabbinic mic drop, we're to live every day as if it's our last. Speaking of Johnny Cash, there's this amazing scene in the movie Walk the Line where Johnny Cash is really coming into his own. He's like this superhero origin story moment. And I think it's the first time in the movie that he comes in and he's in all black sunglasses, hair slicked back. And I think he's standing in a bank and he's smoking a cigarette. And the guy says, "And what's with all the black? You look like you're going to a funeral." Maybe I am. Maybe we are, right? Who knows if we're dressed for our funeral? Maybe that's where we're headed. Rembrandt painted this picture of the rich fool. There's a story of this guy that was so focused on accumulating life that he missed his life. He got so busy putting it off that he died on accident. And he was so, successful that he poured his time into building bigger and bigger barns, accumulating more wealth, chasing promotions, neglecting his family, friendships, health. Anything that was the kind of presence that would have sort of made value of the life that he had built, he missed it. So he was trapped in this cycle of putting it off. He'd get to living tomorrow. He'd do it tomorrow. He'd say it tomorrow. He'd tend to those relationships tomorrow. He'd care for himself tomorrow. And the parable ends with this conversation between he and God. I love this. Fool. That's how it starts. If you're having a conversation with God and it starts with fool, you're not in a great position. Tonight, your soul will be required of you. Now, this is interesting because it's a financial term of the day, and that's what this guy's living with, right? He wants all this money and stuff. And the financial term means essentially your soul will be repossessed. Tonight, your soul will be required of you. And what I want you to see there is that in the story, God is not the hero and death is the enemy. In the story, in God are both life and death. In God is the gift of life, and in God is the gift of death. In God is the gift of death. And this guy, like so many of us, he thought he could receive the one and ignore the other. And the day will come when life is repossessed by death, that is to say, by God. And this is the yin and the yang. This is the balance of the universe. This is the balance of being, life and death. And all these things you've prepared, in the text that says, in all these things you've prepared, whose will they be? That's what God asks this guy. All these barns you've built, all the money you've saved, all these things you've prepared, whose will they be? And people look immediately at their stuff. You see this in hospice. Their house, their car, they see a lawyer, they decide who gets what, they feel really good about giving this stuff away. And then that's done. And this is where hospice chaplains come in. And so we hold their hand, and then within about 30 minutes, then we're holding their hearts. Because we arrive quickly at the deeper question. Once we've decided who gets all of their stuff, then we start asking, what does it mean to prepare to be dead? What does it mean to prepare to be dead? One of our patron saints, Mary Oliver, says, doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Mr. Noble came on hospice with a year to live, and he died 2 days later. And Mary was supposed to last 2 to 3 weeks, and she's still alive. I've been off my hospice rotation for like 4 years. Mary's still kicking. We don't know when, but we know. We don't know when, but we know. And because we know with certainty that we will die, we don't have to die on accident. Whenever your body happens to, We can die full of intention and peace. So the fear of death is real, and there is a more generous way to think about death and to think about God than maybe what we were given. Maybe we weren't given very generous ways of thinking about death. But what's the practice to live less afraid of death? In hospice, they gave us 5 things. They're called the 5 things. We're not in the titles business. We're in the death business. So these 5 things help create a process for people who are grieving or dying to prepare for their death or loss. So we could coach our patients through these as they prepared. And the 5 things are: will you forgive me? I forgive you. Thank you. I love you. Goodbye. I want to say this. If you never think about death again, but you fold these rhythms into your life will be richer, your death will be more beautiful and peaceful, and even joyful. And if you never think about Jesus again, but you fold these rhythms into your life will be more Christian than most people who claim it. Forgiveness, gratitude, love, surrender, or non-attachment. And what we're saying is the things that make for a really great death also make for a really great life. Thomas Merton, who's one of our mystics, he says that there's a self that's not at peace. There's a self that's not whole. It's not integrated. It hasn't grown all the way up. It's growing up, but it hasn't grown all the way up. And he says this is the paradox, that to find ourselves, we have to lose ourselves, right? He picks up on what Jesus is saying. You've got to lose your life to find it. And that somehow in losing ourselves and finding ourselves, we come to know that of God in us. The true self, God. The wondrous mystic Simone Weil explains it like this. She says, to give up our position as the center, to renounce it, not only intellectually, but in the imaginative part of our soul. We didn't do any spiritual anatomy in seminary. But if Simone says that there's an imaginative part of our soul, I'm going to find it. Give up our position as the center. To die to the conflicted self, to lose our life so that we might find it. Not everyone in hospice is religious, but this is what we're talking about. We talk about a peaceful death, that we arrive at a sense of peace before dying. And it's people who have died before they die. The world's religious traditions have been trying to figure this out and practice this for thousands of years. And the 5 things, I think, best mirror these traditions because they're perfectly designed to disarm a self that's terrified, to confront the ego, to soften all of our posturing, and to give up our position as the center. Forgiveness, gratitude, love, and surrender do this. So just try this on real quick. We're going to wrap up with this. We're just going to practice for a second. You don't have to close your eyes. You can. Hold in your mind the eyes or the face of one you need to forgive, or from whom you need forgiveness. Hold in your mind's eye the eyes or the face of one you need to forgive, or from whom you need forgiveness. Doesn't forgiveness, giving it or receiving it, change the posture of our ego and our self-preservation? Giving or receiving forgiveness is allowing the part of us that holds grudges or is too proud to be wrong to die. We have to let it go. We surrender it. We decenter it. Hold now in your mind the eyes or the face of one to whom you need to express gratitude. Doesn't gratitude remind us that we need more than what we can provide, that life comes from sources beyond us, that we are dependent, and we should be grateful for these gifts? But to be grateful, we have to die to our self-sufficiency and our lonely, isolated independence. Hold in your mind the eyes or the face of one to whom you need to express love. Doesn't expressing love, real love, leave us vulnerable? With our soft belly showing to expose the nerves of how we really feel, to say it, to give it, to express it with no promise of reciprocity. To do this, we have to die to the self-protection if we're going to risk love, being seen and accepted as we are. Hold now in your mind the eyes or the face of one you need to let go, or from whom you need to be released. And doesn't surrender of anyone or anything, doesn't saying goodbye require the death of our attachment to things, to people, to outcomes, even just familiarity? In all these practices, what we're really practicing is the death of the false self, what Merton calls the false self, the not yet integrated self, the self that is too proud, afraid, and attached to forgive, thank, love, and surrender. It's hard to die well. This is dying to live. We could summarize it. It's hard to die well if you're too proud for grace. And it is impossible to live well if you're too proud for grace. My grandfather prepared for his own death a few years ago, and he told my dad this story. I've shared this before. And he was talking about his brother, so my grandfather's brother, Kenny. And he said he was a short, athletic, funny little imp of a man. He loved the twinkle in his eye. Kenny raised a family of 3 great kids, but he didn't enjoy a happy marriage. He retired. He learned he got terminal cancer. And he left his retirement home. He left Aunt Ellie, his wife, and he returned to the farm of his youth. He said he always considered that his true home. He arrived in the spring with 6 months to live, and he announced, this is a Collins man, by the way, that he would be planting a garden, he would till it, and he would harvest it in the fall before he died. Yeah. Dictating the terms of my timeline. I love it. None of that came to me. Thank you for that. But this garden became his therapy. It became his focus. And one day on a ride in the pickup truck into town for supplies, Kenny turned to my grandfather, Conrad Sr., and he said, I have 3 words for you, brother. Do it now. Live each day as if it's your last. Don't put it off. It may be that tonight your soul is required of you. What have you prepared? It may be that you're dressed for your funeral and we just don't know. Uncle Kenny got to plant and harvest this garden. He got to die on purpose because he was given this warning. 6 months to live, terminal cancer, time to get your life in order. And I think tonight, the not to put too fine a point on it, but the good news of Jesus, the message of Jesus, the Christ, the guide, the wisdom, our brother, this is the good news. You're going to die. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. You're going to die. Time to get your life in order. Do it now. Do it now. Let me say something to you. With those 3 things in mind, you're going to die. Time to get your life in order. Do it now. I'm just realizing this right now. What if we laid over that sensibility a statement like, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is here. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. You're going to die. Time to get your life in order. Do it now. Like, stop waiting. Turn your life into the things that give you life now. Yeah, we can go on the street corner. Don't give away my surprise for candlelight. So do it now. Do what now, right? Because we see this and we go, yeah, do it now. Bucket list. I'm buying tickets to Alaska. No. Do the 5 things now. No, this is not your, like, oh yeah, I'm getting a car and zero out the bank account. No, do it now is do the 5 things now. Find people, look them in the face, and ask for forgiveness. Forgive them. Tell them that you love them. Thank them. Kenny's garden, Uncle Kenny, became a legacy. And more than sugar, peas, and greens, right? My dad still talks about this because he planted forgiveness, gratitude, love, and this really generous farewell. The Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, he says it like this: "'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be, oh, to be, and to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing.
a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing to love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. To be in, right, we're bound by the language of our tradition. To be in the cosmic Christ, to be in the universal oneness, to participate in the body of that Christ, which is to say in this community, to follow the way of Jesus, to follow the message of Jesus, the nuclear core at the heart of the Christian tradition. And I think the mystical path of the saints and the sages and the gurus is this. I think this is the deepest sacred impulse of this table, to learn to love what death can touch. To learn to love what death can touch. This is the opposite of the religion I was given, right? Fall in love with things you can't see that death will never touch. And then you can go there later and death will never touch you either. No. You got to learn to dig in and learn and love what death can touch. Life and death and life again. We're going to come to this table and receive the Eucharist. This is the gift of love with death. That's this table. Right? We can't keep coming here and looking at the symbol of a body broken and blood shed and not acknowledge that the gift, while it's love, it's also death. It's always both. God is with us even in death. This table is a symbol for us in our tradition of the materiality of our faith and the humanity of God. It's a reminder that we ourselves are the body of Christ. We as Christ's body to be given and blood to be shed. The table of this unconditional belonging and transformative love is set. The table that takes death into itself and allows it to become a gift. This table set for us and for all people, and no one will ever be turned away. Come, let's share with one another this meal and these words, bread for the journey and nourishment for the soul. Come when you're ready.
Love of mine, someday you will die, and I'll be close behind. Follow you into the dark, a blinding light, tunnels to gates of white, just our hands clasped so tight, waiting for an hint of a spark. If heaven and hell decide that they both are satisfied, illuminate the nodes and their vacancy signs. If there's no one beside you when your soul embarks, then I'll follow you into the dark. Catholic school, as vicious as Roman rule, I got my knuckles bruised by a lady in black. Held my tongue as she told me, son, fear's the heart of love. So I never went back. If heaven and hell decide that they both are satisfied, illuminate the nodes and and I'll follow you into the dark.
Thank you so much for joining us in person, and if you joined us online, whether you chatted or if you were just eyes on the service. Thank you again for making financial support a part of your practice. But to find us also, consider giving us a review. In all these practices, what we're really practicing, love and surrender. It's hard to die well, too proud for grace. It's impossible to live well, too proud for grace.
Let's bring our hands together as a symbol of our intention. First, to our forehead for clarity of thought, to our lips for clarity of speech, to our hearts for clarity of action, so that in all that we say and do, love would be our first thought, our first word, and our first deed. Grace and peace. You guys have a